Hi again, everybody. Welcome into Unanchored Boston. And as always, we are brought to you by Cold Springs RV, your destination for all things camping. And where? We're in New Hampshire, of course, and by the great George Gray, the big wheel we call him at George Gray's Lexington Toyota. But we're thrilled that Dan Shaughnessy is first of all, is feeling better every single day. And we'll get into that in 1 second right here when Bob introduces him. But we're also thrilled that he's joining us right now after a great column last weekend on the Dynasty and other things. So Bob Lobel with his Savannah Banana t-shirt on, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Mike and Dan. Welcome to the show. It's good to see you. First of all, how you feeling? And what an ordeal it's been. Quite a quadruple bypass. First Ryan, now you.
Well, there wasn't a lot of preparation for it. And, I know you guys have been through a lot of stuff, so I don't have to tell you, but I feel very blessed. I feel it was a gift and dodged a bullet here, and I'll be better in the long run. One of the things you're going to hear a guy clearing his throat a lot today. I don't know, my voice got something going on. It's pitching higher, and it's anyway, I'll do my best to not be coughing in your face too much here while we're on it, but that is a wrinkle to it. But no, I it was about 7 weeks ago now, and I'm getting a little better every day and starting cardio rehab in a little bit. And I'm not back by any means, but I thought last week there were some topics that can't wait, and I thought the Kraft, the Dynasty thing was one of them, because the series had finally dropped and everybody had weighed in, and I had a lot of thoughts on it. So got that out and hope to have another one for you the end of this week. So, but it's not going to be the steady diet just yet. I'm still a ways to go here.
I got to say, and Mike and I both agreed before you came on that it was one of the hardest hitting columns we've seen in a long time from anybody. And I don't know, it looked as if you were saving up a lot of stuff, and all of a sudden it just came pouring out, and it was great. It was just really on the money. And I just want to, what kind of reaction did you get to it? Was it one of your strongest columns that you've ever felt you've done, or just how did it fit in the whole pantheon of Shaughnessy lore?
You guys know, we have all of our thoughts, and we have conversations, and we live the life, and we've all been around for all of this. We remember the Sullivans, we remember Orthwine, we remember Pete Carroll. So we have some perspective. It comes with us being older, and so I have a lot stored up on that. And the Dynasty in particular, that book came out in 2020, and I was really disappointed. I know Jeff Benedict a little bit, and he's been a fine reporter for a lot of years, and I just feel like in this instance he just decided to make retirement money and just kind of tell Bob Kraft he'll tell his story, and that's what it was. It was the Kraft version of events. I thought the Wickersham book came closest to encapsulating all versions of it. Ian O'Connor's book on Belichick, which did not have Bill's imprint, I thought was very fair. And, there's been a million books and all kinds of things, but I called Jeff Benedict. We talked about it, and because I think he's a really good reporter. But in this instance, excuse me, I just felt that he just sold out, and because we all know Kraft's version of events. He invented the Patriots. There was no Patriots before 1994. And just the notion, the way he ran Parcells out of here and continues to disrespect him, and to see what was done to Belichick in this thing, and it just bothered me. And I had a lifetime of pent up feelings about it, which I've brought to the paper over the years, of course. And then I wrote about Dynasty when the book came out in 20 and represented Jeff Benedict's side of it. And the book was mailed to season ticket holders as a party favor. Yeah. I can tell you, none of my stuff has been mailed to season ticket holders. It's just, you don't want that if you're a journalist. That's like, it's insulting. And so you had that right there, and it was clearly editorial control. And and guys, I mean, for Bob Kraft to stand up there in Orlando yesterday, who always wants it both ways and always wants the fans to like him, and to chime in that he's disappointed with the negativity of the dynasty. I said, it's like Marty Scorsese saying that The Flowers of the Killer Moon is too long. I mean, well, whose fault is that? I mean, he just is stunning. So it's ongoing. And I mean, Bob got up there yesterday too and was asked about the NFLPA player ratings, about how they hate the facility and worst family treatment, F-, 29 out of 32. And he said, yeah, I didn't know about that. They came out a year ago and it was the same thing. I mean, it's so transparent. It's laughable. So anyway, if you have the money and you have the team, you have that forum, but I can't help but push back.
And if the intent of this whole project was to enhance Kraft's candidacy for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, did it backfire on him?
Yeah, I heard from one of the voters who said, I don't listen to that stuff at all. It pushes me away. And, and again, he'll deny that that's a motivation, but we know it is. We know it kills him that Jerry Jones is in. Mark Leibowitz wrote the book. I forget what it's called. I got it here somewhere. Big Game. It's in the shelf. Read Big Game. Leibowitz, he writes for The Atlantic. Excuse me, brilliant guy. And he had great access to a lot of the owners and commissioner and all this. And he's a political writer, but he captured it well. And he and I text quite a bit. And yeah, it's well known how Bob covets that. And, there's some things you can't buy, and you can't, hire Channel 4 all access to put a good spin on it. So it's just that one's frustrating for him, and I understand that. And we've got this situation now, guys, and you see this because you're smart guys and you've been around, where now it's just Bob and Jonathan and John running the team as the Wizard of Oz. All the power, none of the accountability. And at least with Patrick Sullivan, we could yell at him or call him a buffoon or whatever, or pat him on the back, but you knew the son of the owner was running the team. They were transparent about it. In this instance, they pretend Jonathan's busy with corrugated cardboard all the time, but it's clear. And now you got this poor coach. Gerard Mayo seems like a nice fellow and great player and stand-up guy. We all like him, but he's so beholden to the owners. This is exactly what they finally wanted. They finally have. I mean, Parcells wouldn't do it. Bill wouldn't do it. Pete did it to a degree, which is just kiss the rings. There was like 5 references to ownership and the Krafts and willing to spend. And it's so obvious. And that's what they want. But then when it doesn't work, they can fire him and get another one. But this is, they have achieved what they want, and they got a 4-win team that's ranked, 29, 30, 31.
Well, if this was their plan, one of my really close friends said to me that, I don't have that many really close friends, so I could just, could be easily identified. Said he felt for sure that this would all backfire on Kraft, that the whole project would end up backfiring. And I just wondered what you thought both you guys, what you thought the end game was. I mean, we're in Netherlands now. What is the end game? Is it worship? Is it money? Is it all of the above? Is it everything they've ever wanted, or is it nothing that anyone wanted?
Mike, you go first.
Well, I think I said this last time we talked. He reminds me of a character, Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman. He doesn't want to be liked. He wants to be well liked. And that's his sole purpose in life, going through life. And that's pretty much, if you want to just put it in a nutshell, that's what Robert Kraft wants.
See,
Right,
one of the-
and he's not the devil. I mean, he's a nice man. He does great philanthropic work. He's just
right.
unusually needy and really always wanted to have it both ways. Deflategate was a perfect example of that. Where he pounded his fist, demanding apologies from the league, and then when they gave him the sanctions, he went to the league meetings and took the temperature of the owners, and he realized he's going to lose his seat at the big boy table with the Rooneys and the Maras and those guys, and it became, we'll accept the penalties. We were duped by the NFL. Usually, he's always duped. He's always getting duped. Whether it's Aaron Hernandez or Hartford or whatever, he was duped, and we're supposed to be. It's okay. We all make mistakes.
Well, some of the telling things that you wrote about, and you really did a great job of cherry picking some of the more outlandish things in the whole series, was the Aaron Hernandez.
Read that quote. Read that quote.
I know that. Read that quote. Did you do this? And if you did, I'll get you a good lawyer.
If you did, I'm sure you had a good reason.
Right. Right. But
how does Odin Lloyd's family feel when they hear that? He was murdered by Aaron Hernandez, and the owner of the Patriots is telling the world, well, if you did it, I'm sure you had a good reason, and we'll get you the best defense possible. That tells you something about the way someone lives their life. And that is wrong on so many levels. You're telling your murderer player that if he in fact did commit murder, I'm sure you had a good reason. No, who says that? And he volunteered that for the camera and then signed off on the project. Wow.
Yeah, that was one of the more remarkable moments. The fact that he volunteered it for the camera, he just took it to the next step, whether he said it or not. He wanted it to be made known.
And then they launched one of the segments, I don't know, part 17 or 7 or whatever it was, but and it starts with Belichick's letter to Trump on the eve of the election.
Oh, that was another thing.
There's no mention of Bob's $1 million donation to the inauguration.
Or the fact that he was sitting at Mar-a-Lago at a table with Trump, and some Iran thing.
And you got all these Patriot players, the African Americans particularly, saying how violated they feel like this, and they should. Their coach to do that. But what about their owner? And it's not mentioned. We won't even get into.
It's almost as if, and it was a double hit for Kraft to put that in there, because he once again reiterated that Belichick was a Trumper, and at this particular part took care of his allegiance to Trump. 3 days after Trump was elected, Kraft is standing outside a Trump Tower for a photo op.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that picture. But that's all beside the point. It was outrageous that why would he even bring up the Belichick letter to Trump?
And then we had to hear Rupert Murdoch talk about Robert, the self-made man. I didn't need that. Robert as Jonas Salk, savior of humanity, and self-made man. So's Donald Jr. It's like, let's not forget Myra and Mr. Hyatt and corrugated cardboard and. Ugh.
Dan, why you may have brought this up to me or other people numerous times, but why do relationships with Robert Kraft and anybody on the planet end? When they end badly?
You and I know a lot of the same people, and the old saying was, "There's never a second deal." No one does a second deal, and the cast of people that we all know who came away unhappy and they're, to a man, some of the finest men I've ever known. And no second deals.
But why is that? Why is that?
We'd have to ask them, but Joe O'Donnell's not here to talk about it anymore. Eddie Andelman could probably talk about it. David Mugar's not here to talk about it anymore. Bill Parcells won't talk about it. Stephen Karp, I don't think chooses to talk about it, but it's a lengthy list.
I have, there's so many things we can continue to talk about in Dynasty, and I'll just give you a choice here of all the things before I do my first commercial and only commercial that I do here. But I'll just give you a choice of things you want to go to, Dan, whether it's, we can stay with the Dynasty, which is, fraught with all kinds of great discussions, because it really has been a captivating and ongoing story as they've continued to drop these episodes, and certainly around the New England area. I mean, I've had a number of people down here in Hilton Head come up to me and actually talk about the Dynasty thing, because it's been so captivating in so many different levels. And many of them share the same opinions that you did about the Kraft ownership of that documentary. But there's also Shohei Ohtani, there's Caitlin Clark, there are the Red Sox, and of course the Baltimore Bridge. But I'll give you a chance to talk about, Lynch and I were talking about, you can talk about any one of these things, or we can go back to the Dynasty, because there's so many fascinating things going on. And of course, the NFL draft, which, crazy Patriot fans, not in a negative sense, but crazy Patriot fans just can't wait to speculate on who they're going to pick in the third. You know how it goes. It's the attention span is pretty short-lived.
Let's go back to the Dynasty for a second, Bob. So Dan, what I think one of the burning questions, not just from this episode, but not this series, is the Malcolm Butler mystery. Will it ever be solved? And now that he's retired, will they ever reveal what really happened?
Say that he heard it was personal, like he never asked. I mean, you wouldn't go ask your coach. I mean, hey, what was that? We just lost the game. I'm blaming you. Why didn't he play? I mean, we all tried. And but again, what kind of a revelation is that to have the owner of the team in the documentary say, yeah, I heard it was personal. You didn't ask? I don't know.
Well, and then him to say that I was going to keep my eye on him on the next. I mean, what was that? That was like a child, treating him like a child. I'm going to keep my eye on him after that Malcolm Butler debacle in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the timing of the project makes you wonder too. Those things, you guys are TV veterans. Those things don't wrap up and come together in a matter of minutes. And that was long planned and a lot of work and interviews. And the notion of the firing of Belichick, which was all convivial and Patriot forever and all this, and then to have this thing drop shortly thereafter.
I think you're absolutely right. I don't think that it was a coincidence with the timing. That I think it's some grand plan.
They knew for a long time they were going to fire him, and they didn't just decide that at the end. They knew.
Yeah, and they knew when the drop was going to be, or at least coordinated.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously a lot of stuff that went on, but
what was the purpose of putting Bill Parcells in there? So Kraft could say that he was interested in himself. He did not have the interest of the Patriots at heart. It was just so he could just fire another, stick another shiv in Parcells' back and make sure he's never going to be in the Patriots Hall of Fame.
I mean, and of course Parcells is in the real Hall of Fame, so I think he's gotten over the little shop at Gillette is okay with him.
That is so bizarre.
What about all these guys now? Rodney Harrison, Devin McCourty, they feel duped that they feel that they were misled that this is going to be a celebration of all the Super Bowl championships.
Well, we all know, I'm sitting here being careful what I say on this because I know you sneaky guys will pull out the one controversial thing and that'll go online. So you have to be careful when you're in these forums because, and those guys have been doing interviews a long time and they're professional commentators for the most part. So, yeah, I mean, you say something bad about Bill and you're an ex-player, that's going to get used more than, oh, nobody thought we could do it or the usual stuff, So that's different. And then, the project was good in that sense. We had good voices from players. I mean, Welker just destroyed him. And now you got guys saying Welker hates Bill. And that's kind of a nice little subplot if Bill comes back to the league because, Welker's still on the sideline. I didn't realize it was that visceral with those two.
Yeah, he was. He's still angry about the Rex Ryan's wife's feet.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there was just so much to dissect in this series. It's just beyond belief. I mean,
It's really good.
a half-hour show. I mean, doesn't even do it justice. You need a month.
No, it was very entertaining.
A month of them. I mean, where do you go? And then the last episode, I mean, two guys who appeared to have turned on Belichick are Matthew Slater and Devin McCourty.
Yeah. No, I was surprised, and I know that Slater's really backpedaled and tried to accentuate the positive because he's a good guy, but he has a lot of thoughts, but you got to be savvy enough to know that the ones that are new and not favorable to Bill are going to be used in a Kraft promoted doc to demonstrate the legacy of the Krafts. It's done by craftlegacy.com or whatever. It's right there at the end of every show. It doesn't say Patriot legacy. It doesn't say Belichick legacy, Brady legacy. It says Kraft legacy. That's it.
How do you explain though? Like you've talked and I've talked to people in Patriots Kraft Productions, and they said they had nothing to do with the show. All they did was provide access to their library, and that was it.
That is, I do not believe that, and I think that people will surface who got off the project because of issues of control, editorial control, and I think that'll eventually surface.
Do you think the part about the NFL films disassociating itself is accurate?
I do. Yeah, I don't see that no one's pushed back on that. That was reported and hasn't been shot down.
Yeah.
Dan, what kind of reaction did you get from that column?
Well, it's an interesting question, Bob, because I was talking to Ben Volen yesterday, and he's probably got as many haters as I do. Trolling Volen and the whole thing. He deals with it because he's good. But he said he's never written anything that's gotten so much approval from the readers, and I kind of feel that way sometimes with that topic, which it always worries you a little bit when everybody agrees with you. Because we're not really used to that. But I really think that the fans here are smart enough. They recognize that Belichick's getting hosed here and that he was really important. Everybody knows the coach is really important. I believe in that. I know that people think it's all Brady and all this stuff, but I don't care what the numbers are. I think that's rubbish. Coach is really important. And most of that stuff doesn't happen without him. Sorry.
So you're saying you're embarrassed because you got so much positive reaction from this?
Well, it's a little bit disarming. I've got the sympathy card going for me now. I just had that surgery. So it mitigates some of the hate. But yeah, it's never good when everybody agrees with you. That gives you pause.
Well, that's a good way of answering my question. So it wasn't overwhelmingly positive response that you got, and I can understand why. It was powerful. It was powerful stuff.
It had to be said. I started off saying how I hadn't felt that way since 1988 when John McNamara got fired and I was in the hospital. I was ripping tubes out of my arms. I said, nobody else gets to write this one. I've been waiting 3 years for this. So this felt like that.
Did you have to get permission from your doctors to write that column? Because you say what you want, but somewhere inside of you, it has to increase your blood pressure a little bit, right?
No, I think it was cathartic. I needed, my cold, dark heart needed to vent a little bit. And, when you have as much anesthesia as I had and you're just as as completely just losing stretches of time in your head because of all the getting hit by a truck aspect of, and you guys have been through a lot, so but yeah, just getting your awareness back and realizing what's happening, saving the papers, and then seeing the series, just it coincided with my convalescence. You sit in your lazy boy and go back and get the 10-part Apple series here. It's like, what, really? And it just kind of builds like, we got to talk about this. And everybody else had a chance to do it and did it quite well at our paper. We had a lot of people with good, great commentary on it.
Yeah, I would say there was, I wouldn't characterize it as piling on, but I think it was a legitimate expression of how people really felt about it.
Yeah, it's amazing. People are still talking about it. Of course, it's there forever. And it's been good for Apple, I suppose. Good for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been it's good for Hamachek or Apple or Benedict, or everybody got what they wanted to get out of it.
Is that Ron Howard? Is that Opie? Is that our Ron Howard?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I love that guy. He does great stuff.
He does.
That's a little disappointing.
Well, yeah, disappointing in the sense that, well, what made it disappointing, I guess, is Kraft's position on how he felt about that he felt that he wasn't happy with it, which is it's like putting your finger up and feeling the wind, which way the wind's blowing, and then going in that direction.
He liked three of them. He liked the first three. Well,
right. Like
first three
episodes, right.
I mean, I couldn't tell you what was part 3, part 4. I mean, I have to watch through the whole thing again to tell you. But I think one point you just made, Dan, is that we all, for years, Red Sox fans are the smartest fans in Major League Baseball. They know baseball, blah, 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 blah. But Patriot fans drank the Kool-Aid coming out of Foxborough. And I think Robert Kraft thought they would continue to drink the Kraft production Kool-Aid. But this docuseries, I think, has got them to spit up some of that Kool-Aid. Yeah, you're right. And I think it has shifted the balance of influence and the balance of public opinion.
Yeah. It was too much piling on Belichick for no reason, especially when he's down. It's a little bit the equivalent of, the Red Sox putting out all that bad stuff on Frank Conner after they fired him. It's like, people don't want that. It's not fair. It's a bad look.
So do they think that the Boston sports fan is naive and can be led sort of whichever way that they want to lead them?
Well, that's the 6-6 things. Opinions change so quickly because all of a sudden the 6 Super Bowls were great, but they were in the past, and that's what have you done for me lately? It's when I go to Foxborough and Gillette Stadium, and I want to, how good are we going to be? What's the draft going to look like? So it's fans turn the page pretty quickly.
Yep.
So what are we going to have here now, Dan? We have exactly what the ownership wants. Control over their head coach, control over player personnel, control over their general manager, control over their draft room. What's the draft room going to look like? The war room on draft day is going to be now. In all the video we saw during the Belichick years, Robert and Jonathan were basically ornaments in that room. Yeah. That's all they were. Ernie Adams did a lot of the talking. Bill did some of the talking. But you heard nothing from the Krafts. Is it going to be turned around now?
I believe so. I don't know if you'll ever see that, and I think that really grated on. I believe that grated on Jonathan in a big way. Parcells was like that. They didn't want the owner around. They didn't want the owner's kid around. It's just the way those guys are wired, and they were not. Didn't like hanging around sponsors and doing cocktail parties and meet and greets and all that stuff. They were just coaches. And that always grated, in my view. They're just not, not smooth meet and greet, pat on the back. No. Red was like that. Red was the worst. It's small talk and hanging around, glad handing, and he had no time. Red was the worst around women. He'd flick his cigar ashes on their shoulders, and he just so a lot of good. Being a really great coach doesn't make you a great glad hander, and neither one of them paid any lip service, and they couldn't stand. And it's bad enough having the owner. The owner's kid is always worse. So, and in this instance, a really smart owner's kid who wants to, again, Prince Charles just waiting to be king, and it's a long wait.
Yeah. So what are we going to have here? A Jerry Jones-like organization?
Ugh.
Is that what
they got work to do. I mean, I'm not close to it, but everything you read and just where they are and where the talent gap, and I mean, they just look like, and within the conference, within the division, looks like a lot of work to do. I mean, they feel like last place again. I mean, the Jets, Rodgers is going to play this year probably, and I don't know. It just, they feel like they're really behind, and it's just going to be. And we deserve this in a way. We had it so good for so long.
Well, all of a sudden, this has become what it was 25, 35 years ago, 40 years ago. It was never a destination for free agents. They didn't want to come here because of the weather, because the team was bad, the organization was bad. Then things changed, and everybody wanted to come here.
Yeah.
And now we're back to where we were.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's just gonna it's nice they have the fan base and the season ticket waiting list and all that, and I think they'll continue to sell out, and they'll continue to be the topic on sports radio 24/7, which is good for them. It's the thing has really pivoted in a good way for the Patriot franchise.
Yeah, there's no question that the whole NFL has become
Yeah.
the ruler of the roost right now, by far.
By far.
Are you still there?
I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just checking. I hope you're there because I need to talk about Campers Springs, the Cold Springs RV, if you don't mind. This is really an important issue, and we'll get right back to the Dynasty. And I really want to talk about Shohei Ohtani, and I guess you really got to talk about the Red Sox because I assume that's Friday's column, the one that you're going to be dropping here in a couple of days,
Hope so.
have to do with opening day, and at least in small part, you'll probably end up mentioning these guys. But correct me if I'm wrong. Get ready for 2024 with a new RV. It's opening day, and the Red Sox and everybody else are, geared up for whatever they're geared up for. Cold Springs RV has the latest in pop-ups, travel trailers, fifth wheelers, and motorhomes. And when you need an RV or service, get to Cold Springs RV in Ware, New Hampshire, which is just west of Goffstown and north of Dracut. So go all out and check on the new all Winnebago Access travel trailers now on their lot. So don't forget to tell them that Lobel and Lynch sent you, and you learn more about the whole ColdSpringsRV.com operation by going on ColdSpringsRV.com, which makes a lot of sense. And Mike's got a question for Dan, and we've asked him this question before, but this has got a different twist to it.
All right, Dan, we told you before, you got to take the Lobel Lynchy cruiser cross country. But this time riding shotgun, you have to take one of the characters that appeared in the Dynasty. That includes Patriot players.
That's easy. Ernie Adams.
That was my pick. Ernie, yeah. Why Ernie?
Well, we just know so little about him. He's so interesting. Doesn't do interviews. He's brilliant. Historian. I want to know about his life, how he got to be like he got to be, what he knows, and just, I want to hear it all. And I wrote a 4,000 word profile on him at one of the Super Bowls without talking to him. And it was just fascinating. Like, I called Parcells for it. I was calling everybody, Phil Simms, just guys in Ernie's background, and Pat Sullivan. He talked about how he was memorizing playbooks when he was like 21 years old and everything, that he was like this savant around the offices. And with Parcells, I said, yeah, you got any Ernie Adams stories? And he said, he said, he says, I really can't remember the guy, And I'm like, yeah, well, I know, but yeah, I'm not looking for, dinner conversation, but what about working with him? He says, I'm not trying to be tricky here. I just don't remember him. And I'm like, wait, Bill, it says in the guide here that he was your director of player personnel for 3 years with the Giants. And he says, I know, and I don't have Alzheimer's. I just can't remember anything about the guy. and there was the one in when Bill had him in Cleveland and Modell owned the team, and put out a bounty. He was offering I'll give $10,000 to anyone who can tell me what this man does for us, And it's just that was the owner speaking, and there's just so much mystery. And I know he's brilliant. I've met his wife. He lives in Brookline, his mom's house, and just all those stories about Malcolm Butler being ended up in that game, and just what he's talking to Bill about. They missed him the last couple of years. Bill missed him. I mean, the challenges used to be money, and that's because Ernie we got something here. And the whole thing, not calling timeout when Pete Carroll's across the field, that's all Ernie. And I'm a big believer. And I think Bill Burt, who did a nice piece.
Yes.
And Ernie was coaching Andover Exeter. They're Andover.
Andover, yeah.
So Ernie was helping out at Andover. I think he has a grandson or a nephew or something playing, and so they talk all about Andover, and then Bill tries to pivot to the Patriots situation, and Ernie says, "We're on to Exeter,"
You're good. I did always wonder, Dan, why Ernie never flagged Belichick and about losing the team, about what really was going on in the locker room as opposed to that was the one. I just never have been able to resolve that.
They're both old guys like us. We all get old together, and you just don't see it. I think it's there's things going on underneath us that we can't be aware of because we're too old.
Why do you think we, I know Ernie a little bit. I went to Exeter, and I been to some Exeter Andover functions.
Oh, you went to a prep school, Mike?
1 year.
Oh, okay, all right.
1 year after high school. But I mean, this guy would go to his grave and is going to his grave. He said in the piece with some secrets. But on the other hand, we heard more from Ernie Adams in this documentary than we heard from his entire career with the Patriots, right?
Why so? And that's part of why when I said this thing is wildly entertaining. I am not coming off that just because I didn't like it and didn't like Bill was treated and didn't. I think the Krafts are shameless in it, but I thought it was wildly entertaining. I mean, I'd watch the whole thing again. Yeah, it was.
Well, the great Alan Miller called it sports porn.
Yeah, sure.
That's pretty much it. Sports porn. So you didn't answer the question, Mike. You didn't ask the question.
I did ask the question about who do you like to ride with?
I said Ernie Adams.
Adams. That was the last one he said, right? But I thought you were going to rephrase the question.
No. That I did rephrase it. Yeah, I said, who would you rather? Has to be some character from.
I'm sorry. Okay, Bad Bob.
Characters.
Bad Bob. I'm getting old.
Where did they come up with the guy who used to go undercover to he had the Genovese family? Remember? And was he a state policeman in New Jersey or detective?
Oh, that was good.
What the heck did they yank him out to be?
That was a strange pivot. That was. Wow. I forgot about that.
And when you see the Genovese family, you say, "Oh, wow!" And we're holding this, we're relating this to a football game and stealing defensive signals.
Right.
Yikes!
Yeah, that was kind of a weird side pivot off the road there. It was. Yeah, I forgot about that until you just brought it up.
Yeah, I mean, and this guy.
Well, he was entertaining. There's no question about it. And,
he made no mistake that the Patriots had violated, and that this camera's going nowhere, pal. It was such New Jersey, I mean, you had to be one of the. It was almost like Goodfellas. He was one of the Goodfellas, and even though he was representing the law and representing the NFL, and truth, justice, and the New Jersey way.
Loved it.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I got to go back
They
and see.
just stumbled on the guy when they were doing their research for Spygate, and all of a sudden they stumbled on him and said, "Oh, this is the guy that."
Yeah.
And they talked to him for 5 minutes, and then we're putting him on camera. Done. And those things, that's the way things happen, as you know.
Sure.
Well, go ahead.
This camera's going nowhere. These tapes are going no. And how about the other thing, Dan? With the it was almost like the woman down in I forget her name, but down in Foxborough with the hammer.
Oh, the hammer! She clearly was in on the. I mean, they got video of her walking down the corridor with a hammer in her hand. That was not a spontaneous moment that they had.
No, that was a fairly rehearsed piece of video.
That was choreographed. And yeah, Robin, whatever her name is there.
Glazier. Don't forget the high heels.
Yeah, she's a big, major, important player that I know little about. So yeah, I wanted more of her. Yeah, but we didn't see Jimmy Hot Fingers McNally or Jastrzemski or any of the guys in that penal colony where they just go away and are never heard from again. The video guys and the deflators, and there's about 4 or 5 of them that they're off on some island somewhere, cashing their monthlies and never to be heard from again.
I haven't. I know Brady got suspended for 4 games, but everybody, always brings up, well, was he guilty? Did he orchestrate it or not? And did they ever come up with a definitive answer, or was it just enough that he was suspended for 4 games and guilty?
Well, they were doing it. I don't believe it helped him, but they were doing it. There's
no question.
That's my takeaway.
Yeah. Your buddy, your favorite Dan, Judge Berman, did not make it.
No, the fanboy wasn't in there anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like the federal fanboy judge, guys going to parties with Kraft and getting autographs and all that stuff. Oh my God, he got rebuked by his peers in a big way.
You look back on this thing now, and with all the stuff going on in the world at that time, before then and after then, that we spent 4 different times standing outside a courthouse in Lower Manhattan, the media 6 deep coming out, going inside. I was in the courtroom upstairs, and I was on the sidewalk, and I just said, I can't believe this. All this, and I'm looking around, I'm saying, like within 3 blocks of us right here, there's going to be 100 crimes being committed as we speak, more serious than maybe deflating a football, more likely than not. It was a Holy Cross site that headed the investigation, right? Yeah.
Well, Ted Wells, he was classmates with Clarence Thomas at Holy Cross.
Right.
The famed Wells report. And then the Patriots having the Wells report in context, which I think is still on the website. That wasn't mentioned either, but their version of events, it was just hilarious. That was such a gift. I mean, you could never get enough. That was like the team sports football equivalent of the Tanya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan thing, when we're standing in her driveway every day, with snow coming down on us, and just Shane Stent and all these guys. I mean, Tony Kent Arena, and I mean, those stories, those things are the greatest. Yeah, sorry, that's not. It's nice to say poor Nancy got clubbed, but the story was just irresistible.
Yeah.
Well, as was as is the discussion about the dynasty. It becomes the documentary has become the story as opposed to telling the story. It's become the story.
Yeah.
It's fascinating and it's interesting. Well, because there's so many quirks and corners and everything else involved, from, as you said, from the New Jersey cop all the way down to deflating the footballs and whatever, and murder.
Will Belichick show up next June to the Brady enshrinement?
You never said that. That's really a good question, Mike. I don't know, man. There's a lot of damage done on that thing, and is he going to get another coaching job? Is he going to work in the media? If he works in the media, he's probably going to have to be forced to come here in that capacity at some point. I got to think he really doesn't want any part of this. that was bad, and it's just got to be, I don't know, hurtful and disrespectful. He's got his money, and he knows what he did, and he's got, I think, a lot of support now because he's been wronged. But to what degree he'll participate in the phony? He did that last one when he stood there, and they didn't use the word firings and a Patriot for life, but that was a very bizarre day, and you knew he was getting his money and would probably never see him again, and it wouldn't surprise me. I just we've never seen Parcells again, even when his son-in-law was running the team. So I don't know. That's a good. And now both boys out of the system now. Stevens in Washington.
I think Ryan is still here.
Well, yeah. Well, that could be a motivation to come back too.
Yeah, but I mean that hug that when Kraft tried to pull in, and Belichick was like, "Get your friggin' arm off my shoulder right now."
Yeah, cool.
And Belichick wanted to just give him a backhand.
Yeah, recoiling. Ooh.
Yeah.
I still haven't. I know there's corrugated cardboard plays a big part in that press conference, and we had a crisis in our corrugated cardboard paper company. I still haven't understood why Jonathan wasn't there on that last press conference.
He doesn't want the heat. He wants to be a shadow GM. Just have the power and not the accountability.
Yeah,
that's my view. And then deny he has the power. And that way he doesn't get blamed.
The number of times people have said no to Jonathan in his life, you could probably count on one hand or less. He pretty much gets what he wants and does what he wants and answers to no one.
Yep, smart guy.
Yeah. That's Well, this is going to be an interesting draft coming up. I'm going to be whatever shots they have of the war room. I'm really going to be curious how much interaction there is with Jonathan and Robert as opposed to the last 24 years when they were just there.
What did Parcells say? He doesn't know anything about football. Didn't Parcells wasn't?
Yeah.
But he was a scat back right then at Columbia.
Yeah, right. I mean, and again, there's no reason an owner should know anything about football. So I don't know why you have to pretend otherwise. So, yeah, just stay out of the way. That's why you have good people running your team.
And I really want to ask you about Ohtani and the whole betting thing, and also Holy Cross and Caitlin Clark, and now with the Red Sox opening day, but then we got to talk. I have to ask you about Mike brought it up beforehand about the Baltimore Bridge that you must have traveled over many times.
That was built the year I got there in 1977. That's a horrible story, and just that video is just, your heart goes out. Those poor guys fixing potholes. Jeez. So it just makes you think about all the bridges we have here, and whoever gave the thought to that happening? Not me.
Right. Never.
And now you look down and think, geez.
Yeah, every bridge in the world is now susceptible to some kind of terrorist act.
Can't stop the momentum, and it's just horrible thing. And and I know, I'm sure we'll feel the impact economically, but those families of those workers, that's just the worst.
But you worked there for what, 7 or 8 years in Baltimore?
I was there 77 until 81. So covering that team. That was really good for me. Good time. Good place to cut my teeth, and covering Major League Baseball was a real blessing.
I
love every time you run into Jim Palmer, you call him Cakes.
Cakes, yeah, that's his name.
Crab Cakes, right?
Yeah. He pancakes.
Pancakes.
When he beat Koufax in the World Series, he was 19 or 20, and he was eating pancakes. And Sandy Koufax's last game was a 6-0 loss to Jim Palmer, 1966 World Series. So it's great. They're both still alive, and both have good teams behind them now. So that's my World Series pick. Baltimore, LA, just like 66. Only old people can relate to that.
That'd be great. I always thought it was crab cakes, because every time I saw you talking to him, we were in the Baltimore press room, and they were serving. You could only get 2, right? Crab cakes.
Yeah, they doled those out like gold, and there was a reason they were so good. Yeah, that was good.
So, how will Manfred handle the Ohtani situation?
Well, I mean, he's on a slippery slope. I mean, first of all, I mean, he loves gambling, and I understand the money, but it's a slippery slope, and we've all old guys, we were raised, this is the devil. The office of the commission was created because of gambling. So Rob Manfred has a job because gambling almost killed baseball in 1919. And but then now they've embraced it, they're partners. And so we're seeing it. You see that kid with Toronto, the basketball player, hilarious, goings on. And
How about the Patriots? How about Booty
Yeah.
betting on high school, college games?
This is just going to be, it's never going to end. The Ohtani thing, I'm going to play naive and just hope it's all true that, the nefarious interpreter. But Ohtani's a real private guy. No one knows he's married. No one knows the name of his dog. I don't know. It's just, we don't know much about him. I just hope it's not true, because if they find out he bet on baseball, then his career's over. And that would be bad for baseball. I want him to be good. I want that story to go on. So I'm choosing to believe it, which is naive, but I don't have any choice. And I'm not close to it. So I'm going to choose to believe that, the nefarious interpreter. But it's, federal investigation, MLB investigation. I think they'll probably find out. I think those things are pretty easy to trace today with the sums of money changing hands.
You think even if he had the scintilla of guilt, that Major League Baseball would not protect him? Because
if they can cover it up, they will.
Yeah, that's
they will. It's like, it's like the NBA did that with Jordan, in my view. That's why he played baseball for 2 years. I think David Stern said, you're getting out of control here. Go do something else. See you in 2 years. But I can't prove that.
Well, I think that's been the prevailing theory over.
Yeah.
There's a whole generation that has to be indoctrinated again on the evils of betting on baseball.
Wow.
And now, because basically every other spot on television, some type of DraftKings, FanDuel, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Well, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? That will be the posture of the general public, especially anybody that's under the age of 50.
Yeah, it's just and again, it almost killed the game, 105 years ago, and it's just, we need to know it's on the level. That's the one, that.
And it's just not baseball. I mean, we know that basketball is the most susceptible of all.
Yeah. And colleges, you're just going to see it. It's just so, the opportunities are there. So, and I want the game to be on the level. And people bitch about the officials, and you can always tell bettors when they're reviewing games, writing about games, because they're bitching about the officials or this or that. They see things that aren't there, and it just skewers the way you look at it. And that's a vice I've never entertained, and I push back on it. I don't miss it. I don't want it, and I'm really uncomfortable with it. But it's here to stay, and the partnerships just make it rife for potential corruption.
Hey, Dan, if you're thinking about a new vehicle, go where Lynch and Lobel go. Go see our good friend George Gray at George Gray's Lexington Toyota. We've been customers for years because we know that George Gray will treat you right. They're family-owned and operated dealership that we trust, and you can trust as well. Go see the big wheel himself, the great George Gray, at George Gray's Lexington Toyota, 409 Mass Ave in Lexington. George is been an original sponsor of the show and has been a big fan of Dan Shaughnessy and the Boston sports scenes. And he's a great guy to talk to. Even if you don't need anything done with your car, just go in and shoot the breeze with George.
I have bought my last 10 cars from the man.
I know. I have one in my garage right now, and my daughter has one. My mother has one.
Well, we've all done the dinner with George at the stockyard, so we have to go back now. As soon as Dan gets back on his feet, we'll do another dinner at the stockyard.
Yeah, but you can't, no fried food though, Dan, right?
No, I know. I gotta stay off that.
Yeah, we'll get you all the healthy stuff. Hey, speaking of your alma mater, Holy Cross, they got to play out in Iowa City
Yeah.
against the great Caitlin Clark. And forget about the score. I mean, what an experience for those women. And Holy Cross is a hell of a women's basketball team. They're good because they have their star is from Dublin, Ireland.
Yeah.
And the state of women's college basketball right now is something I thought I would never ever see. And I look in the paper and I say, all right, when's the next time Caitlin Clark's playing? I'm watching television. I'm watching. I was on Peacock one night watching Indiana play Iowa.
Mike, Monday night, Mike, you could have watched the Celtics with a 30-point lead blow it to Atlanta, or you could have watched Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
Is there any doubt what you would have watched?
Caitlin Clark.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing for the development of sports and for young women and role modeling and it's true. I mean, what Mike says. I mean, right now, the best stories in the tournament are all on the women's side. The Clark thing, Buchers, however you say her name, in Connecticut, and even the goofy coach at LSU. I mean, that's pretty irresistible. Right. But I am here to say, with my limited amount of knowledge, what I've seen of Iowa the last two games, they are not winning the national championship. They're going to get smoked by somebody very soon.
Yeah, well, South Carolina would be one of them.
I don't think they're a top 10 team. They were better last year. They had a better big down low.
Can you believe you're talking about women's college basketball now, Dan, and this is not Duke and UCLA?
And Clark disappoints me. She's been very petulant the last two games, and whatever Holy Cross brought out that in her dad's yelling at her, and it was not an attractive game. She was off her game, and that's okay. She's a great passer. I'd pay to see her just pass the ball. Yeah. And obviously the long range stuff and, just a great all around player. But I don't understand why she's out of sorts. It's not a good look. It's like watching Jason Tatum or something. It's not good.
I probably watched a half a dozen games this year. Holy Cross did the best job defensively on her than any team played against that I saw.
Yeah.
Let me just say this before we adjourn. We've gone almost an hour and have not talked one scintilla about the Red Sox opening day and the emergence of this new baseball season, which has already started in South Korea. It's pretty remarkable that there's the level of interest is. I know your column, it's on Friday's got to be bringing up about the state of the Red Sox and Major League Baseball, but it's the season is underway and about to explode here in the next few days with our local entry in the American League East, as Guy Manella would call it. So, I mean, isn't it amazing we haven't even talked about them?
Yeah, it makes me sad the way this has evolved. Unnecessary. I don't blame anyone in uniform, the staff, the coaches, the players. Those guys are doing their best. And they're liable to surprise us and play a little better. I thought the camp was tighter. The defense is better. I think they have a really good attitude. I think they've cleaned up a lot of things. Starting rotation's just awful, and it's going to break down. The bullpen's better. But some of the young everyday players are going to be entertaining. But the notion that they've gotten no help from above is just appalling. And the disregard for fans, who built that, our fathers and our grandparents and the people who cared about the team when all they had was Dick Raditz and Yaz and Frank Malzone and Joe Foy and just it's a starless team and it's not their fault. And I'm just amazed, unacceptable. And I don't know if it'll catch up with them. They do well with the tourists and the pink hats and people who want to sing the song and all that. But you got to be a real purist to stay with this now, because it's a big ask. And I just was stunned at the off-season repeated demonstrations that it's all about the bottom line and not about a better team.
Full throttle.
Yeah.
That's what I want to change the name of the show to.
Very good.
Full throttle. I think it'd be great.
Do that.
Well, Dan, continue good health. You look great. I hope you feel as good as you look.
Thanks, guys.
What are we looking at? Just before we say goodbye, what are we looking at? Is there 3 months, 6 months to your?
Yeah, I'd really like to be back in the mix, like on a normal basis, when the Celtics get to the finals. Let's just say, which we're expecting them to do. But yeah, hoping for a long run for them, and I'd like by May, June to be doing what I was doing before, and maybe a little night games, traveling, that sort of thing. But there's recovery to go on that, and I'm very blessed. I've had great care, great support, great medical, and again, very, very fortunate here, lucky. So and thanks to all, and it's great hanging with you guys for an hour as well.
Yeah. Well, it was great for us, and it just like many members of the starting rotation, you haven't lost your fastball.
Thank you, fellas.
Thank you. Dan Shaughnessy has
good job.
All right, take care. See you guys.
Well, has the Savannah Bananas, and you can find us at unanchoredboston.com.